He went to work alone in an empty building on New Year's Eve, but found himself listening to the end of the world. New Year's Eve, downtown. The city is buzzing, but for Alex, it's just another high-stakes gig. Alex was a top-tier sound engineer, the kind of guy you call when the acoustics are a nightmare and the budget is even worse. He'd been hired last minute to calibrate the sound for the Millennium Sphere, a massive, globe-shaped concert hall sitting right at the top of a brand-new skyscraper. Now, this building was an architectural marvel. It was all glass, steel, and weird, curving angles designed to look like a literal crystal ball over the city. But the problem with architectural marvels is that they usually sound really bad. There were echoes, dead zones, and strange vibrations everywhere. So, while everyone else in the city was downing champagne and getting ready for the countdown, Alex was alone on the 80th floor. It was dead silent. Just him, his soundboard, and miles of cables. Around 11:55 p.m., Alex decided to run one final sweep. This is basically where you play a tone that starts very low and slides up to a high-pitched whistle. It helps you find exactly where the room is ringing. He hit the button. The sound filled the empty ballroom. Whoom. As the clock hit 11:58, Alex noticed something weird on his monitors. The levels were spiking, but not because of his tone. He pulled his headphones off and frowned. For a split second, he thought he heard a dull roar, like a stadium full of people just over the horizon. He checked the windows. The streets below were crowded, sure, but he was 80 stories up. He shouldn't be hearing individual voices. He pushed the frequency higher. He wanted to find that sweet spot where the building's glass began to hum. Then, midnight hit. The moment the clock struck 12, the silence in that ballroom didn't just break. It shattered. Suddenly, Alex was hit with a wall of sound so loud it knocked him back against his rack. It was the sound of 50,000 people screaming, "Happy New Year," followed by a deafening blast of electronic music and the thud of confetti cannons. Alex scrambled to mute his board, but here's the thing, his equipment wasn't even turned on. The speakers were cold. The sound wasn't coming from the tech, it was coming from the air itself. It lasted for exactly 5 seconds. And then, total silence. Alex stood there, heart hammering against his ribs. He looked around the ballroom. It was empty, dark, not a single piece of confetti on the floor. He checked his phone. It was 12:01 a.m. He tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was some weird atmospheric trick. Maybe the sound from the street had just bounced off the buildings in a perfect sonic lens. He put his headphones back on to calm his nerves, but his hand was shaking. He decided to run the sweep one more time, just to prove to himself he was fine. He slid the fader up. The tone climbed. Suddenly, the echo came back, but it wasn't the same. This time the sound was distorted. It sounded like New Year's Eve again, but this time the cheers were shorter. They were cut off by a sound that Alex's brain couldn't quite process. It was a high-pitched, collective scream. Not a "we're having fun" scream, but a "we are dying" scream. Alex checked his digital recorder. The timestamp on the audio file read, December the 31st, 2025. He froze. That's next year. He felt a chill crawl up his spine, but curiosity is a dangerous thing. He pushed the frequency even higher, leaning into the distortion. The air in the room started to smell funny. It smelled like ozone, like a lightning strike, and something metallic, like copper, like blood. The next echo hit, December the 31st, 2026. This wasn't a party anymore. Through his headphones, Alex heard the sound of a massive, panicked stampede. He heard glass shattering, massive panes of it, probably the very windows he was looking through. He heard people begging for help, and underneath it all, there was a low-frequency vibration that made his teeth ache. He tried to pull the headphones off, but his hands wouldn't move. He was mesmerized. He was a sound guy. He was trained to listen, and he realized the time echo wasn't just a glitch. The building's unique shape and the frequency he was pumping into it had turned the Millennium Sphere into a literal receiver for the future. He turned the dial one more time. He wanted to see how far this went. He wanted to know if it got better. December the 31st, 2028. This time there was no crowd. There were no sirens. There was no music. The only sound filling the 80th floor was a deep, wet chittering noise. It sounded like a million insects clicking their mandibles together, layered over a sound like heavy breathing through a throat full of fluid. It was huge. It sounded like something the size of a skyscraper was exhaling. Then, Alex looked down at his soundboard. Sitting on the clean, black plastic was a single piece of confetti. But it wasn't paper. It was a strange, oily black material that seemed to swallow the light. He reached out to touch it, and as his finger brushed it, he felt a jolt of pure, cold terror. He looked up, and his heart nearly stopped. The air in the ballroom was beginning to shimmer. The reflections in the glass windows weren't showing him the empty room anymore. They were showing him the room in 2028. In the reflection, the windows were gone. The city outside was a forest of black smoke, and something massive and many-limbed, was coiled around the top of the building, peering inside. Alex panicked. He grabbed his phone and tried to call his boss. He had to tell someone. He had to tell them to tear the building down, to stop the concert, to do something. "Pick up, pick up, pick up," he whispered. His boss answered. "Alex? It's after midnight, man. Go home. Why are you calling?" Alex started babbling. "Listen to me. The building, the frequency, I heard it. I heard 2028. We have to shut it down. If we play the music, if the crowd comes, it opens a door. I can see them. I can hear the chittering." There was a long silence on the other end. Then his boss spoke, but his voice sounded weirdly distant. "Alex, what did you just say?" "The chittering. It's coming from the future." "No," his boss said, and his voice started to distort, turning into that same wet, clicking sound Alex had just heard. "I mean, thank you for the frequency, Alex. We were wondering how to get the signal clear enough." Alex dropped the phone. He realized then, with a sickening thud in his gut, that the flaw wasn't in the building. It wasn't the architecture. The flaw was him. His own mind, amplified by the equipment, was the bridge. By searching for the sound, he had tuned himself to it. By calling his boss and describing it, he had shared the frequency. He wasn't just listening to the end of the world. He was the one broadcasting the coordinates. Tess, he looked at his monitor one last time. The waveform on the screen wasn't a flat line anymore. It was forming a shape. It looked like a mouth. The chittering wasn't coming from the headphones anymore. It was coming from right behind his chair. Alex sat perfectly still, the black confetti falling like snow around him in the empty room as he realized that the more he tried to warn the world, the louder the clicking became. He reached for the power switch to shut everything down, but his hand stopped. Because through the speakers, he heard his own voice from the future, screaming, "Don't turn it off. If you turn it off, they'll stay here." Alex let go of the switch. He sat back, closed his eyes, and listened to the sound of 2028 getting closer, one click at a time. If this tale crawled under your skin, hit like, share your own "what if" in the comments, and subscribe to Campo Creeps for more stories that linger long after the lights go out. Until then, creeps out.